Mustafa is also joining us from Mumbai, where similarly members of the LGBT community have come to fore. This was due to be a historic day if it came in their favor. Mustafa, what's their sentiment as of now?
Yes, of course. We are at this NGO called Humsafar in Mumbai. Nikunj Joshi, who is joining us, is from Infosim, who is one of the petitioners in this case. So, as you the same-sex marriage right has not been recognized by the Supreme Court. What are your first reactions after listening to this verdict?
सी इस पे बहुत सारा अच्छा जजमेंट भी आया है. ऐसा नहीं है कि LGBTQ कम्युनिटी को डिग्निटी के साथ में एक सोसाइटी में रहने के लिए मिला है. और अगर LGBTQ बात करूं तो ट्रांसजेंडर्स को राइट्स मिले हैं, मैरिज राइट्स मिले हैं. बट हम वी वर एज ए गे कम्युनिटी और लेस्बियन कम्युनिटी वी वर एक्सपेक्टिंग मोर कि सारी चीजें मिल रही है. तो एक बस सर्टिफिकेशन, एक हाँ कि मैरिज सर्टिफिकेट मिलना वो एक नहीं मिला है. तो बट अभी हमें जजमेंट को समझने की बहुत जरूरत है, क्योंकि बहुत अच्छा जजमेंट आया है, बढ़ा दिया गया है. तो पहले हमें समझना चाहिए कि क्या क्या बोला गया है, उसके बाद में हम एक बेटर पोजीशन में रहेंगे कि क्या करेंगे. बट हाँ यस, कहीं ना कहीं हमें राइट्स नहीं मिले हैं तो थोड़ा सा भी हम निराश हैं. बट हमारी जो फाइट है वो रुकेगी नहीं. हम आगे जाके भी अपनी कम्युनिटी के लिए
इस मॉर्निंग आज सुबह तक ऐसा लग रहा था कि डिक्रिमिनलाइजेशन होने के बाद आज ये राइट मिल जाएगा. देयर वर अ लॉट ऑफ कपल्स हु आर वेटिंग टू गेट मैरिड. इनफैक्ट देयर आर लॉट ऑफ कपल्स हु आर वेटिंग टू adopt children. So for them there is some disappointment after hearing the word.
वही मैं बोल रहा हूँ कि बहुत सारे मिले हैं, जैसे अडॉप्शन राइट्स मिला है और उनके साथ डिस्क्रिमिनेशन नहीं होना चाहिए. बहुत सारी चीजें मिली हैं और ये अच्छा डिग्निफाइड वे से कम्युनिटी को प्रेजेंट किया है सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने, और बोला है कि उनके साथ पुलिस वगैरह भी सब सपोर्ट करेंगे. बट हाँ, मैरिज राइट्स नहीं मिले हैं. तो हम तो अगर मुझे तो एक चीज समझ में नहीं आती है, जैसे अगर हम कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन की बात करते हैं और कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन इक्वालिटी की बात करता है, तो इक्वल राइट्स तो फिर सभी के लिए होना चाहिए. हम भी इसी देश में पैदा हुए हैं और हमें भी इक्वल राइट्स मिलने चाहिए. तो अभी हम जारी रहेगा ये हमारा सफर.
फाइट फॉर इक्वल राइट्स के लिए जो जंग है, सुप्रीम कोर्ट आप गए थे. सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने अब ये कहा है कि पॉलिसी मैटर्स में हम लोग फ्रेमवर्क नहीं बता सकते. यूनियन गवर्नमेंट को ये आप मैटर जो है वो सौंपा गया है. तो अब क्या उम्मीदें हैं आप लोग?
जी वही, वो कमिटी फॉर्म होगी और उसमें बोला गया है कि कम्युनिटी मेंबर्स भी उस कमिटी में रहेंगे. दैट इज अ गुड थिंग. सो ये अभी इट्स अ जर्नी, अभी ये शुरू हुआ है. ये एक टाइप का ऐसा नहीं है कि एक जजमेंट आ गया और ये हो गया. सो इट्स ए लॉन्ग प्रोसेस और फिर उसमें भी हमारा रिप्रेजेंटेशन रहेगा. हम हमारी तरफ से हमारे पूरे पॉइंट्स हमेशा रखते रहेंगे और जब तक पूरे राइट्स नहीं मिल जाते इक्वली सारी चीजों सभी को, तब तक हम रुकेंगे नहीं.
So we were here. We are also joined by some people from the community. आप बात कर सकते हैं? अच्छा, आप बात नहीं कर सकते. Okay, so we are at this NGO. You can see that there was a lot of preparation here. In fact, they were actually ready to celebrate just about to. But yes, the verdict is a mixed verdict, and it seems that the rights which they were hoping for, they have not gotten it, and they are hoping that the union government and the committee which is formed by the Supreme Court and by the union government will give them these rights. Back to you, Nabila.
All right. Well, Nalini is with us, breaking this down for us. Well, we see a lot of disappointment within the LGBTQ community, but there are a few takeaways that they're looking at the judgment with, and that is that the court has, again, reiterated on the fact that discrimination is an issue which should be avoided, should be taken up legally, or they can fight this legally. The ecosystem is open to their relationship and their union. It's just the marriage part which is complex, and going by the centre's arguments, for now the Supreme Court too has steered clear. But out of the 5 judges, Nalini, do tell us the arguments. Who was really in favor of same-sex marriage?
Well, Nabila, quite simply put, none of the 5 judges were in favor of granting legal recognition to same-sex marriages, which is essentially why the Supreme Court today has categorically refused to grant legal recognition for same-sex marriages for queer couples in India. But at the same time, a lot of the rights, a lot of the protections that should be accorded to this minority community in India have been reiterated by the Supreme Court once again, where the Chief Justice of India has gone to the extent, even though he's in a minority opinion, on several aspects, including that of adoption and the right to recognize a civil union. But at the same time, he has gone on to list directions, not just to the government on what they should do, but also specifically to the police on exactly how the police needs to handle cases regarding regarding same-sex couples in India, how there should be absolutely no harassment if a same-sex couple or a person who's in a same-sex relationship comes to the police and says that they don't want to go back to their family. As long as they're an adult, they should not be forced to go back to their family, and their protection should be ensured by the police. At the same time, directions have also been issued to hospitals and doctors to not try and compel anybody to get their gender identity or sexual orientation changed. There should be no hormone therapies that should be accorded on this community. So several important aspects coming in, even though there was a minority opinion by the CJI and Justice Call on several important aspects. But the unanimity amongst the judges are on two main things. One, that there is no legal recognition for same-sex marriages in India. There is no recognized right to marry. And even if such a right has to exist, it needs to happen through the parliament and not through a judicial pronouncement. And number two, that the committee that the centre wanted to set up to look into these issues is something that needs to be done on an expeditious basis, and not just right to marry, but also ancillary rights that come along with marriage is something that this committee should look into expeditiously.
Right. Rights when it comes to marriage for a heterosexual couple would mean adoption, property rights, etc. And that's precisely the security that the LGBTQ is looking for. But in every aspect, every other area has been covered here when it comes to granting them rights on many levels. It's just the marriage part that's been that's so far not been accorded to them. But nonetheless, if you could tell us in the larger sense here, for the LGBTQ community, how far have they come with their fight to what they see today in terms of the security that they get in a country like ours, despite the government saying there's a gay marriage or gay relationship goes against the tenets of the Indian culture and society, but yet India has come really far when it comes to recognizing their rights.
Well, absolutely, Nabila. It's an ongoing fight, and it's going to go on for a while, especially after this judgment. And at the same time, one thing we should not forget is that long before the Supreme Court decriminalized homosexuality, it was the same Supreme Court of India that had overturned the Delhi High Court judgment that had decriminalized sexuality. So that's something that changed over time with people coming into the Supreme Court, ensuring that a conversation keeps going on and does not stop. So it's going to be a similar process here, it seems. It's going to take some time for not just the court, but also the parliament to act upon this and to ensure equality in its truest sense to every single last citizen in the country. But at the same time, I believe that this entire judgment should be seen as a step forward. Not only because they've spoken about so many rights that the queer couples should get, including the right to cohabit, the right to choose their own partner, the right to celebrate their union, which is something that a lot of couples might have been a little hesitant about so far because there was no specific order in place allowing them to do that. But right now, the Supreme Court categorically said that they should be allowed to celebrate their union. Keeping all of that in mind, the most important reason why this judgment is a step forward is because at least it started a conversation. All of these hearings throughout the marathon arguments that happened before the top court, Nabila, have been live streamed, which means that people across India have had the chance to view not just what arguments are being made by both sides, but also what the Supreme Court judge's opinion was. And a lot of lawyers have told me that the entire discussion was so intellectually stimulating, which means that there is an informed, intelligent discussion happening on the subject, which in itself is a very good start. So it might be a longer fight for the LGBTQ community, for the queer community to get equality in the way that they think is right and maybe compel the parliament to come with such a law. But at the same time, it should not be seen as a setback of any manner because it's at least started a conversation.